I won $10,000 cash. My boyfriend of 4 years and I have been having a childish fight and I did something I can't undo. He's a full-time student who works part-time in the summer. I have a full-time and part-time job, he studies a lot. We live together and mostly live off my pay while he stretches what he makes in the summer. Neither of us have ever owned a car because it isn't necessary where we live. We both walk or take the public everywhere to save money. In the morning we stop at a corner shop shortly before splitting up for the day. He buys cigarettes and coffee. I buy fruit for my lunch and, on the weekends, lotto tickets. He always makes fun of me for paying the stupid tax. But I figure my indulgence is cheaper and doesn't come with lung cancer. Sometimes I jokingly tell him not to expect a penny when I win. The day I won he answered me with fine, keep it all. It's not like I'm crying over a penny of nothing over here. I showed him I'd won. He stared for a bit and then dismissively told me I'd probably spent more than that on tickets. In response I asked what I should blow his half on for myself. I was honestly joking at the time but he suddenly became angrier than I've ever seen him and I didn't want to admit I'd been kidding because he was so pissed off it pissed me off. He wants a car, and I don't. He keeps trying to steamroller me so I'm refusing to share the money. In honesty I'm willing to spend or save the money for us but I don't want a car. I won't use a car and it will keep costing us money in parking and maintenance. After weeks of him sulking and lecturing me about his entitlement to the money he took me to a car lot and tried to embarrass me into going along with him in front of a salesman. I threw a tantrum after we left without buying anything and I went to my mom's and paid our rent up to the end of the year and donated the rest to charity. He doesn't know. I fucked up and don't know how to come clean. TLDR, I haven't told my boyfriend I spent the money I won because I was upset he was being a dick. He's already angry at me. What do I do? Top comments. Pseudonymously. I fucked up and don't know how to come clean. I don't think you fucked up at all. Deleted. Me neither. You spent your money buying the tickets, it's technically you're winning money. It's not like you're married, that'd be a little different. He's just mad that he didn't support your buying the tickets in the first place so now he looks entitled. I think you spent the money very wisely. Plus now he doesn't have to worry about rent. He better not complain. Bien theridonethats too. Agree. The only way this would be a fuck-up is if OP has a tax bill coming due to the winning with no funds, anymore, to pay it. Oh OP. No, I rounded down to $10,000 because I was counting after tax and a celebratory dinner. Spock 5 eyebrow. All in all, OP, you sound like a very level-headed person. Your boyfriend, on the other hand, sounds like a huge jerk. Why are you with someone who treats you like that? Breakup train. You paid up rent for both of you? Or just yourself? Oh OP. It's my place from before dating him. I never ask him for rent because it cost me the same either way. Winged 17. Just to be clear, he's living rent-free and you share finances meaning you pay for everything unless his part-time job gives him enough hours? And he's demanding more money from you? Metric. I think you should seriously consider everyone's responses. Your boyfriend does not sound like he's respectful or appreciative of the effort you put into your relationship. That said, do you mean that your dad gave you money when you turned 18 so you could get yourself out of an abusive situation if you had to? Because that's the first I've heard of a parent doing that, but it's seriously an awesome idea. I know a few women who keep saving specifically because they want to have insurance in case of a bad situation, but never a parent initiating that sort of savings. If I ever have children I'm totally stealing that idea. Oh OP. Yeah, my dad sat me down and gave me the grown-up talk about verbal and physical abuse and consent. How to recognize it, what to do, how not to be abusive. Then he gave me the money and explained how to use it. He did this for all his kids, boy or girl. Update. Long story short, a couple months before I won, my boyfriend had secretly dropped out of school to join a Christian rock band, he's not Christian, and bartend to cover his new coke habit, which explains so much. He took me winning as a sign they were about to make it and should go on tour, that's why he wanted the car so damn much. Obviously we had a huge fight. I sacrificed a lot because he told me he'd never be happy without that degree and he threw it away to play rock star while I ground myself down at dead-end jobs. I told him I agreed to support him through one dream and if he was done with it I was going after my dreams now. He made all kinds of promises to me about how he'll take care of me when he gets famous, but I told him the only promises I cared about were the ones he made when I agreed to help him through school. He broke up with me until I come to your senses. As far as I'm concerned, that's already happened, so I had his brother pick up his stuff. He tried to cause problems about me illegally evicting him, but I reminded him I had some text conversations where he said your apartment your problem and I don't live there anymore, so deal with it. I have no idea if that's legally enforceable, but neither does he. My lease is up in 3 months and I won't have to worry about it after that. It's been really rough accepting he's not the guy I fell in love with anymore, but the way he's been acting has made it a lot easier. I'm mostly angry I sunk so much of my time and money and compromised my future for him. But I guess it's better I found out now instead of later. I got tested in case he cheated or was doing other drugs, and so far so good. I'm also 9,000% sure my ex staged the 3 break-ins we had in our apartment after one of his friends told me around that time my then BF was trying to sell my prescriptions and his laptop that I ended up replacing FFS that were supposedly stolen. I told the cops and his friend agreed to make a statement, but what's happening with that yet? Other than that, I'm happy to report I'm only working one job now that's actually something I want to do and pays way more. My apartment is much nicer without his junk, and now the toilet is never unflushed and the seat is always down, so I've got that going for me too. With all my free time I've rescued a kitty and I'm learning to knit. I was planning on becoming an old cat lady, but I also went on my second first date ever. It was with another woman, which was kind of a surprise but also somehow not. We've got a second date planned and I'm incredibly giddy with anticipation, which is really nice. Oh, and I told my dad how much he liked his dump him fun/consent conversation, and he said his grandma gave him one when he decided to get married at 18, not my mom, so he can't take credit for the idea. Edit. Thanks for all the well wishes, everyone. TL, DR, boyfriend dumped me, can't complain. Top comments. Monsieur Le Dude. Sorry he turned out to be such a heel. Getting dumped is never fun, but a bullet was definitely dodged here. My apartment is much nicer without his junk, and now the toilet is never unflushed and the seat is always down, so I've got that going for me. Which is nice. Shirley 92. Being dumped is never fun, but I think in OP's case, it's the best thing that could have happened to her, lol. And can't forget. With all my free time I've rescued a kitty. Yay to rescue animals. Robe Kidda. Entitled, A Coke Addict, a Thief, etc., etc. What a complete pile of human garbage. Congratulations on getting rid of him. Enjoy doing you, OP. Creeps__ta. LOL, and wanted to be in a Christian rock band, hilarious when you consider all of those factors together. Aura City. The toilet is never unflushed. The fuck? Did he not flush? OOP. Not usually, which made it so much more lovelier that time I forgot to check the seat and fell in. Rick 0. Yay kitty cat. Also, while this all really sucked for you to live through, I am sure that it will be the most delightful of anecdotes. Dropped out of school to join a Christian rock band is just about the dumbest life plan I can think of, especially given the general state of the music industry as a whole and of Christian rock in particular. OOP. It's very unlike him. I thought he was messing with me until he showed me the videos, not good. If Coke explains all of what's going on, there may be other drugs I don't know about. He's not the same as when we met, I know that much. Update. Boyfriend broke up with me and left until I come to my senses, is claiming letting his brother pick up his stuff is illegal eviction, even though I have texts from his saying he doesn't live there anymore. Could he have a case? I posted an update after asking for advice, and someone recommended I make sure I can't get in legal trouble over the situation. I live in CA and had my apartment for 4 years. My ex lived with me for 3 years. He never paid rent or was on the lease. My landlord knew he was there and he got mail there. My lease is up in 3 months and I'm planning on moving. He left willingly, and when I texted him about some damage he'd done to the building that he'd promised our landlord he'd fix, he sent me 2 texts that I kept copies of saying your apartment your problem and I don't live there anymore, so deal with it. He sent his brother to my place to pick up some music equipment and I had his brother take all his stuff with him. My ex texted me angrily about how I couldn't just illegally evict him, but backed off when I sent him screenshots of the texts. Also, the police are currently investigating him for 3 break-ins to my apartment when he lived there based off one of his friends making a statement that he tried to sell him my prescriptions and his laptop around that time. I don't know if that's relevant. Could he cause me any legal problems?
I think my GF is cheating on me because I know my GF is not telling the truth about going to yoga classes. Me? M28, living together with my GF, F28, for about a year or so, together for 4. We both have a good relationship and nothing out of the ordinary. I work at a delivery company that does express deliveries all over the province I live in. Because we have express shifts, we have to take a delivery van home every day. We can also use this van for private trips. The company sometimes has to deliver very expensive goods. Therefore, the vans are equipped with a GPS tracker that can locate the van at any given time. A few months ago, my GF started taking yoga classes in the evening. So when we both got back from work, we would eat and, in case I was not on express shift, she could take the van to her yoga class. We live very close to a border. Europe has open borders, yay. But we can only go to other countries with permission of the company. It's an insurance thing as far as I understand. Last week, my supervisor told me that in 9 cases my van was in the neighboring country in the evening without permission. This was very odd, because she told me where she had the yoga classes, and this was definitely not out of the country. I knew I couldn't go out of the country, so I am sure I didn't. I didn't tell my supervisor about the yoga thing, but I asked him for the exact location so I could take a look at it. What I found out was, all the 9 times were exactly the times she had taken the van. A retracing WhatsApp times from the on my way to the time of departure are a match. I got home that day and decided I was not going to ask her up front. However, I did ask her where she had the yoga classes, and she said the same place as last time. So she is basically denying that she was in another country. During the evening, I made up a bullshit story that a coworker got in trouble for driving over the border without permission. She seemed a bit shocked or somewhat, but did not give any ordinary response or anything. The address I have is just a parking spot in some neighborhood. I drove there last night with my private car to see if I could find anything, but it's just houses and a park. A quick Google search shows no yoga things anywhere around. I could follow her the next time she has yoga class, just to see where she is going and then confront her afterwards. Or should I just tell her right now? This is all really stressing me out at the moment. Any advice would be great. TLDR, GF says she is going to yoga, but the company GPS tracker says otherwise. Edit, holy shit, this exploded. I will check your answers ASAP. Edit 2. I will give an update as soon as I have confronted her. This will only be possible on Friday, night shifts, etc. I've read all you comments, and I would like to highlight/clarify some of those. In my country, a car is either insured or it's not. Anyone can drive it as long as there is insurance on the car. There are a few scenarios which I can find in the comments. I know I am hoping it's not cheating, but I think that is the most obvious. She has used some drugs in the past, recreational, but has not done this anymore for a long time. I would highly doubt she would hide it from me if she was using drugs, since she told me about her drug past in the very beginning of the relationship, and she is very open about it. She also doesn't look any different as normal. This also makes me think that smuggling across the border is highly unlikely. I know everybody is telling me not to be a detective, but I want to confront her face to face, which is only possible on Friday. In the meantime, I have been doing some detective work to kill the time. What I have found out is that she has 2 girls in her Facebook friends list that live in this village where she has been going. I do not know them, nor has she ever spoken to me about them. I managed to pinpoint the exact address of one of these girls, and they pretty much match with the location the GPS pointed out. Don't worry, I will not go there. I can just use this as she would deny anything. I will give an update as soon as I have confronted her. Update 1 week later. Sorry for the late update, but I needed some time to think things through. She got home on Friday, and I confronted her with the fact that the van had been abroad without permission and that it had to be her that was driving there. She straight up said she indeed went abroad, but she didn't know I could get in trouble for it. I asked her to explain why she was lying about going there. She decided to do yoga because she has had some back issues from her past. However, she knew a girl, the one abroad in her Facebook, that was all spiritual and could heal her by doing a few sessions at her home. She knows I think this is bullshit, so she decided to tell me that she was going for yoga classes, but instead went to this spiritual girl. I was kind of confused because I expected something entirely different to be going on. I was also having troubles believing her. She insisted I went with her on Saturday to see that nothing weird was going on. So, I did. This girl did some weird meditation, drew some cards, and did some other witchcraft shit. My GF then had to pay 45 euros for this. I kept my cool, but to be honest, I am pissed off at this girl. The only thing she does is sell hope to desperate people. People with real issues that need to get real medical attention. Our way home was pretty awkward. I didn't know what to say. We talked yesterday, and I explained to her that I was angry because of the fact that she had to lie about something like this. She said she was afraid of my response and just wanted to see if this could help. I told her that she can do whatever she wants, except lie about it. She promised me she would never do this again. I am still really confused about all this. I think she is wasting money, and instead of throwing it at some freaky witch girl, she could be investing it in things that would actually improve her back. On the other hand, I am glad she is not cheating. I was almost certain this had to be the case. Anyway, thanks for your responses. Great help. TLDR, GF was visiting a witch, too scared to tell me. Relevant comments. Quebec. If she felt the need to lie about this because of how you'd react, maybe you need to consider your general reactions? Sounds like she was afraid of your judgment, and the phrase, freaky witch girl, seems to corroborate that. OP. I think I know why she was scared of my reaction. We have a big group of friends which we have known for ages, and we discuss a lot of things in this group when we are all together. There are a few dumb asses in this group who tend to believe everything about anything. I'm talking flat earth, chemtrails, steel beams, and hoaxing a moon landing. When these discussions take place, we disagree with each other, and things can get very heated. Even though we don't agree, we are still very good friends after these discussions. I am almost a 100% certain we probably once talked about mediums, alternate medicine, etc. She has probably heard what I said about it, and think I would never approve it. Donttllmishom. Definitely not the usual conclusion to this sort of story, this is true, but certainly more hopeful than the usual conclusion. A bit of advice, OP. If your girl is in pain, physically or otherwise, let her figure it out as she must. She's got junk to sort through. Long-term pain is never simple, and while you may not understand why she feels she needs to follow a particular path, please respect it. She has probably tried many conventional solutions that failed her, and may be highly discouraged. If she comes to hurt herself or others, obviously that is unacceptable, but chronic pain of any sort makes the sufferer question everything they had ever come to know about themselves and the world. There is a powerlessness to unpredictable or constant pain that is highly damaging. Let her talk when she wants to. Let her explore things that give her hope and make her feel powerful. Try to withhold judgment. This money could go towards something better, until she has seen it through as she must and draws her own conclusions. Once she does, reevaluate what you can live with and what is a divergence of values. You may come to find that there is ultimately no problem. Just the 2 cents of a former chronic sufferer who followed a similar path, came to recognize it for what it was, and is doing much better now. Edited to add. Lots and lots of chronic pain warriors replying in the comments below. It's sobering to remember how many different ways a person can suffer. My heart goes out to you all. I hope you all might find peace and relief. OP. I told her as well that she needs to do what she thinks is best for her, even though I might never choose this option. I was very confused when she told me, but this seems to put my mind at ease a bit more. Thanks.
Imagine finding out that everything your husband told you, his past, his family, even his health, was a complete lie. The wife just uncovered the shocking truth about her husband's fabricated life, and now she's wondering, how can she get him out of her life safely? I met my husband 4 years ago, just before moving from PA to GA. Shortly after my move, he followed me, and we fell in love. We lived together from 2015 onward, and in mid-November 2018 we married. Today I discovered that virtually everything he has ever told me or demonstrated about his life was a complete fabrication. From specific medical issues to jobs, past and present, to education to family relationships, to the claim that his first language was not English, to phone conversations that never happened to people he knows to. If you can think it, he has lied about it. We live together, but my name is on the lease and I hold the title on both of our cars. He has some belongings in our home, but most of it has been purchased with money that I have earned over our 4 years together, plus money from my personal savings account. I am totally open to letting him walk with all of his stuff, and even signing the older car to him. After a quick internet search, it looks like I might have grounds for annulment of my marriage, on the basis of being seriously misled. Do I? What will I need to be able to prove in order to make it work? And is there anything else I need to keep in mind to aim for an annulment instead of a divorce? He is mentally ill, though quite differently than I was led to believe, and receives SSDI each month, but that is nowhere near enough for him to live on. What is the legal way to get him out of my house and life with minimal risk, damage, and cost to me? Also, do I look for a divorce lawyer in this situation? Sorry if that's a dumb question. Also, how does custody of pets work? We have 2 kittens we got in July, and I can't imagine separating them. I also can't imagine him being able to take care of them once we're separated, but I don't know if that matters. Additional information. I've had a bunch of questions about what, specifically, the man in question lied about. Here's a partial list. 1, that he went to school in Britain, met his ex-wife there, and lived there for about 20 years before returning to the US. 2, that he went to the bank and tried to close out our joint account but couldn't do it because he wasn't an authorized signer on the account. 3, full list of emergency medical information, including doctors' names and phone numbers, and list of medications he wasn't. 1. For that his grown kid stole about $2,000 from him and kicked him out of his own house. 5. That he'd managed to scrape together enough money to buy a house, but then his property tax increased and he ended up losing the house in a totally unfair turn of events. Turns out he'd so egregiously messed up his family's finances that his ex-wife ended up losing the home she grew up in. 6. That his father had abused him horribly as a kid, and that his mom had stood by and let it happen. 7. That his aunt and uncle were the only relatives who'd really cared for him, and his uncle had died suddenly of a heart attack right before we really got serious. Uncle is still alive and well BTW. 8. That he'd been in Berlin when the wall came down. 9. That he was harassed at the grocery store by some random lady that didn't like the way he looked. 10. That he grew up speaking Polish as a first language. 11. That he walked and talked in his sleep in his first language Polish, as a side effect of the medication he wasn't on. 12. That his dad was a woodworker and was making furniture for us. 13. That his brother worked for DARPA. 14. That his aunt was a nun. 15. That a nurse at the hospital had told him some things about my dad's case that we needed to attend to. 16. That he had a specific job with a host of people he worked with on a regular basis, and all the stories he told me on a nearly daily basis about those people. 17. That his boss had bought him the fancy new watch he had on his wrist. 18. That Mr. Park the camera repair guy did work on his cameras for free or at a discount. 19. Countless lies about money spent or refunds unavailable for all kinds of reasons. 20. That his counselor had actually said exactly what I just said when they talked about it too. This happened over and over again. 21. That he was bipolar and borderline schizophrenic, but well controlled and committed to taking his meds. 22. That he was feeling down at a given time. 23. That he'd posted a sign at work to collect donations for a cause I cared about, and now the only problem was finding a truck big enough to transport it all. This was the lie that led to the end. 24. That he'd met the Queen. 25. That he'd been commissioned to make artwork for Harry and Meghan, and a special concierge for the Queen had come for tea to pick it up. 26. That he got shot at in this bad neighborhood this one time. 27. That a candidate in a local election campaign had some specific and objectionable position. 28. That he'd talked to so-and-so and such had happened, and isn't that awesome / awful / stupid / tremendous. 29. That some awful person had hit the front of our car in the parking lot and never left a note, but it's okay because he filed a report with the cops, who won't be able to do anything anyway. 30. That gallery some name had bought his artwork, but also the payment got screwed up. 31. That his ex-wife had cheated on him continually. 32. That he'd done some activity on any random day. 33. That he'd been asked to interview for a job at. 34. That he'd messed up his knee and went to get it fixed, but his insurance didn't cover it so he had to pull money out to pay for it. 35. That he had medical insurance. 36. That he'd been on the highway in Britain and his motorcycle broke down. On his way to get help he was hit by a car, and that's how his leg got messed up. 37. That he'd looked for places to live after I was moving out, but he couldn't find anything and so he needed to stay with me to avoid homelessness. 38. That he needed our cats to keep him in a good mental space. See above. Mental illness lies. 39. That he'd actually broken a rib in that car accident we just had, but don't worry, he'd be okay. 40. That some FBI agents had interviewed him because Trump. 41. That he had dollar pending with some lawsuits in PA, but also who knows if, when that will appear, because wouldn't you know it, but the entire law firm had been busted for I forget what. 42. That he'd divorced his wife many years before he met me. 43. That he loved me. Update 1 year later. The best advice I can give for those stuck in an abusive or otherwise horrible relationship is this. 1. No matter what you think now, it will be better if you get out. 2. Find people who will give you the kind of advice you'd give someone if roles were reversed, then do what they tell you that you should do. 3. When you're ready to process everything, find a therapist to help you through it, and for as well as you can, act in ways that will allow you to look yourself in the eye when it's over, because that will matter and also it will help you in the long run. There's a disturbing number of people out there who have lived through things like this and much worse. Please be kind to one another, support those who need it, and refuse to tolerate poor treatment of others. It's been a little bit over a year since I turned to this community as my life fell rather dramatically to pieces around me. My original post didn't get a ton of attention, but the replies I received helped me tremendously, and seeing where I am a year later may also provide some hope for those going through their own crisis. In particular, you helped me construct my initial list of immediate to-do items, and put me on the right track to figure out how to extricate myself from the relationship. The day I first posted here was the day I found out that my then-husband had lied and fabricated most of what I knew about him. Other things I did that day included teaching a class to 200 undergrads about 15 minutes after I found out for sure, and kicking off a day-and-a-half long job interview for the next stage in my career, a job which I somehow landed. What unfolded over the following 3 months can really only be described as living my way through my own version of a Lifetime movie. At some point I moved into an extended stay hotel, and as time passed I learned about the depths and breadths of the lies and deceit he'd used to both control me and get what he wanted, and the lengths he'd go to try and get his grip back on what he'd successfully manipulated his way through for about 4 years. What I know now, and what I'm kind of glad I didn't really know then, was that I wasn't actually as safe with him as I thought I was. So I'm thankful I managed to get out with only psychological/emotional/financial burden, and no physical trauma. About 2.5 months later, I successfully had my marriage annulled on the basis of fraudulent coercion to marry. I ended up doing the necessary research and filing the paperwork myself, which was not an easy task, but was both cheaper and faster than it was going to be if I hired a lawyer. A few weeks after the annulment I moved my belongings out of our apartment, and moved to a new city and my new job. Without him but with the kittens. As of late June I finally had him convinced that contacting me was pointless because he wasn't getting me back, and so I've been largely free to recover from the trauma and crisis mode I lived in for about 3 months. One of the things I've learned from all of this is how incredibly difficult it is to get out of a relationship in a situation like this. Besides the obvious difficulty of navigating the legal system, and the cost associated with it, there's the cognitive dissonance of constantly trying to remember to relate to that other person in light of the new information you found out about them. It really and truly took every life skill and tremendous support of my family and friends network to get out in more or less one piece. And even still the road to recovery and a return to thriving is a long one. So, thanks to those who helped me back on that terrible day in January 2019. And if you know someone who is going through something like this, please offer whatever you can in support, because they definitely need it. Relevant comments. OP on how all the lies unraveled. OP. His lies and fabrication started before we met, and were on a rather large scale. Ultimately things fell apart because he made too many promises he couldn't keep. I had questions in the past but had managed to move past them. This time it was just too much and I asked him for evidence. I felt absolutely terrible, but I wanted a picture of something just to allay my fears. He provided the picture but there was a small element that didn't quite fit. Again feeling like a terrible person, I did a reverse image search, and discovered it wasn't his picture. This led to more lies, as he quickly fabricated new layers to make the things I'd found out more palatable. But he took a route that meant there were questions about what was true and what he'd imagined. That led to me pulling at some threads in an attempt to help him put some pieces together. I know, right? In the process I reached out to some people who were supposedly part of his life, and everything began to tumble in on itself. After a few days I had a more complete story and that was it. Except, it took quite a while to consistently remember that he was not the person I thought he was. All told I think it took about 6 months to totally come to terms with it. And even now there are occasional moments where I have to explicitly remind myself that he's not actually person A, but is actually Sir Turdface the Undesirable. Have you ever had to deal with someone so condescending? They just wouldn't stop crossing the line? Well, I had enough. After years of being patronized by a so-called family friend, I finally snapped. Years ago my dad met Harold through mutual friends, and they hit it off. I was 18 and in college when I met him and we never had a close relationship. However, he always seemed to think of himself as a family friend, and was extremely infantilizing and condescending towards me. Every time I saw him I tried to tell myself it wasn't that bad, only for him to prove me wrong less than a minute later. Harold would disrespect my boundaries, say things like, "You're not 19, you're a baby," while I was talking to other people, and patronize me, my education or my hobbies whenever he had the chance. He always noticed that annoyed me, to which he'd playfully ask if I hated him. I always said no, but only for my father's sake. The final straw came the day Harold interrupted a barbecue to say, "I really like you, even though you're an impolite brat." I was 20 years old. I'd been quiet all day, working on a paper during the barbecue, but replied patiently and politely whenever anyone addressed me. And even if that hadn't been the case, I knew he didn't have the right to talk to me like that. After that, I started making an effort to avoid any events I knew he'd be attending. Yesterday was my father's girlfriend's birthday. They threw a small lunch party at my dad's apartment. I went there with my fiancé and our 6-month-old son. Harold was there. I hadn't seen him in months, but he still talked to me as if I was a dumb child. Never mind that I'm engaged, a mother, and 26 years old. I spent the whole party ignoring his helpful advice about me being too young to get married or be a mom. It helped that most of the other guests seemed to disagree with him. My baby spent most of the afternoon sleeping. There's a bassinet in my old room. He woke up hungry, so I went to breastfeed him and excused myself from the party for a while. I got back to jokes and comments, all from Harold, about how I was probably struggling if my son was managing to leech me away for so long. He went on to interrupt a conversation I was having with another of my dad's friends to question pretty much everything about my parenting. He doesn't even have custody of his daughter, by the way, and to make more comments about my age. I decided I couldn't take it anymore after he asked if I'd thought about giving my baby up for adoption. I got my son and told my fiancé we were leaving. We said goodbye to everyone except Harold. When we got to the door, Harold came to ask why we were leaving. I tried to make up an excuse, but he kept trying to make us stay. After a small back and forth, he jokingly asked if I hated him. And this time I said, "Yes, I do. Can we go now?" He didn't say anything and we left. On the way home, my fiancé said he was proud of me. My father called this morning to say the opposite, and we had a small fight, but ultimately decided to drop the subject. I'm sure this isn't over, but if it keeps going, it won't be because of me. This is far from my proudest moment, and a small part of me regrets it, but I'm done with that guy. Edit. Jesus Christ Superstar, that's a lot of comments. To answer some common questions. I don't think Harold is in love with me. Harold didn't tell me to give up my son. He asked if I'd thought of doing so when I got pregnant. It was still an awful question, especially since he interrupted a conversation I was having with someone else, my dad's girlfriend's pregnant friend, who was asking about my own pregnancy and delivery, to ask it. I don't like making a big deal out of things unless necessary. If I'm uncomfortable, I leave. If I don't like someone, I avoid them. It's usually less stressful. The fight between me and my father ended when I told him about the adoption comment. I don't think he gets that's not the only reason I left, but it was definitely what broke the camel's back. I really don't need my father to stop being friends with Harold. He's a grown man capable of making his own crappy decisions. I never told my dad I hated Harold because I never thought I had to like him in the first place. He's my father's friend, not mine. And I've been distancing myself from Harold since I was 20, meaning I haven't seen him much in the last 6 years. My fiancé was on the other side of the room and wasn't listening to Harold's comments. I filled him in when we got to the car. He's 100% on my side. Update August 18, 2023. Hey guys. I wasn't going to write an update, but I just got some free time and I figured I'd fill you in. I'll start by addressing the very frequent assumption that Harold has feelings for me. I really don't think that's the case. His comments always came out as annoying and condescending but never sexual. But I will say that your comments scared the shit out of me. And the fact that the general consensus was "fuck Harold" was weirdly heartwarming. I also want to add that, while I did regret what I said a little bit, I never doubted I'd done the right thing. I think most of my regret came from the fact that my 8 years of keeping the peace were over. It took some time for the relief to sink in. Truth be told, I've been wanting to do this since the barbecue incident, which was when I went from, "I don't like that guy," to, "I can't stand that guy." My father called Harold the day after I made my previous post. When confronted about the adoption comment, he tried to twist it as him being genuinely concerned about me being a mom so soon, and that he didn't think I knew what I was doing. He did apologize to my father. I don't buy any of that. The next day my dad told me about the call. He said I should forgive Harold for what he thought was an honest misunderstanding. He also told me I should apologize too, since I'd overreacted by telling Harold I hated him for such a small reason. Many of Harold's past comments were made with my father close by. It often happened in the middle of conversations with other people, so he'd be too distracted to register them. He also wouldn't notice them most of the time. My dad doesn't pay enough attention to anything that doesn't either concern or anger him, and he'll most likely forget it until he gets angry at something else later anyway. He's like a meth head goldfish. We also have different definitions of what's offensive, so he'd never think they were a big deal. I told my father I wasn't exaggerating when I said I hated Harold, and that the adoption comment was far from being the only reason. I listed most of the condescending treatment and comments I could remember, including the ones from the party. He didn't remember any of them. I made it very clear that I'd hated Harold for years prior to the party, and that I had nothing to apologize for. I then stated that I'm no longer coming to any events Harold is invited to. My father doesn't need to stop being friends with him, or even stop inviting him to stuff, but he can no longer expect me to show up as well. I will ask him beforehand, and if he lies, I'll leave. My father called me dramatic, but I pointed out that I've been avoiding Harold for 6 years now and no one even noticed, so it clearly wasn't a problem. I've only seen him a handful of times since the barbecue incident, and only twice for more than a few minutes, the lunch party last week and another party back when I was pregnant. It clearly didn't ruin my father's life. I'm not obliged to like his friends any more than he is to like mine. There was some back and forth, but he agreed to my terms. We spoke yesterday about something else and he mentioned Harold was upset. I ignored that. I'm not going in see with my father. Yes, I'm very well aware he's an asshole, and I came really close to cutting ties with him in the last few years, but I ultimately decided it wouldn't really fix anything. Maintaining my relationship with him has gotten a lot easier since I moved out, as we only see each other a couple times a month. He gets frustrated that I don't call or text much, but doesn't complain about it anymore. I don't see the point in going and see with someone who no longer has any say in how I live my life. I'd rather just take note of what my father did wrong when I was growing up and then make sure to raise my own kid differently. He's on thin ice though, and has been for some time. He's not allowed to babysit, mostly because I don't trust him to spend more than an hour alone with a baby without falling asleep on the couch. I began pushing for him to start doing therapy back when I got pregnant, and he finally got started back in June. His behavior around me and my younger sister, who still lives between our very divorced parents, has improved a lot since, and I've made it clear to him that he won't be allowed near my son if he stops attending. This is the first time in my life my father has improved his behavior. It's hard to be hopeful, but I'm trying. And if I ever do go and see with my father, it won't be because of fucking Harold. So that's it. Overall, I'm glad I don't have to deceive anyone anymore. My relationship with my father is rocky, but I won't dwell on it. My main responsibilities are my son, my fiancé, and my job, and that's not changing anytime soon. And to those who mentioned Jesus Christ Superstar and Blue Oyster Cult in my last post, has anyone told you you're fucking awesome today? Because you are. Update. Hey guys. Wow, I can't believe it's been over a year since I last posted about this. I planned on updating some time ago. These past few months I've been caught up in raising a toddler, getting married, yay, working like crazy and rewatching Supernatural. Needless to say, I've been busy. Openly avoiding Harold has been working pretty well. My father has been respecting my boundaries. Whenever he invites me and my husband over for lunch or dinner, I ask who else will be there. If Harold's coming, he tells me. He hasn't lied so far, and doesn't usually insist when I tell him I'm not coming. Since my last post, I've only seen Harold once, at my dad's birthday party a few months ago. Yes, I knew he'd be there. My father promised he'd tell him not to talk to me. Also, some of my father's friends' kids, most of whom I used to babysit, would be there. I hadn't seen them in a while, and I love them more than I hate Harold. I ended up spending most of the party with my son and the kids. Harold didn't talk to me at all, so I guess my father was true to his word. My husband and I did catch him staring at us a couple times, but I decided to ignore it. I caught my husband staring back once, and the walking marshmallow I married actually managed to look threatening. I love this man. You know who did talk to me? Harold's girlfriend. Yes, he has one now. She interacted with me twice. First, she came over to coo over my son before making a comment about how he needed a haircut. Ha ha, I already hate you. Later, she approached me and said, "You're shy, aren't you?" I said no. She laughed and said, "Yeah, you're shy." She said all that in the same tone one would use to talk to a 6-year-old. I managed to keep my expression schooled. Otherwise, I would have told her I'm not shy. I just chose to spend the whole party with the kids because they were better company than her and her annoying-ass boyfriend. So yeah, based on both my interactions with her, Harold's girlfriend is insufferable. In other words, they're perfect for each other. I don't have much else to add. My father broke up with the woman he was dating last year, long fucking story, and has a new girlfriend. She is not annoying or psychotic, and I actually really like her. They won't last a year. My relationship with my father is still not perfect, by the way, but it has improved. He's actually started apologizing to me a lot more often. I don't know whether it's the therapy or the fact that motherhood has apparently made me terrifying, but I'll take it. And I'll give credit where it's due. He's a very good grandfather. I'm also glad my father is respecting this herald boundary. I very much don't want this man in my life. Honestly, I'm pretty satisfied right now. My little boy is thriving. Part of me really misses the baby times, but I grow prouder and prouder every day. Getting to know my kid has been fantastic.
My husband has become obsessed with the idea that I'm pregnant, even though I'm not. He won't believe me, and his behavior is starting to scare me. Since about a week, my husband became convinced I'm pregnant. I have no idea why, because I'm not. We haven't even started trying, though we do have plans in the future. We were just making conversation, and yeah, I did mention feeling tired. But that's all. A few hours later, he just came in so excited. I told him I'm not, but he won't let it go. He has made remarks about how happy he is, what a wonderful mother I'll be, what our baby will be like. Not all the time, but it has come up multiple times a day. I told him I'm not. I even took a test, because even I started wondering, and it was undoubtedly negative. I showed him and he just got annoyed, said tests can be wrong. He didn't speak to me for the rest of the evening. The next morning he acted as if nothing happened. When I tell him I'm not, he just kind of shuts me out. I lost my shit yesterday when we were in bed and he put his hand on my stomach, told him he's acting crazy. I'm not pregnant and his behavior is scaring me. He went to sleep in the guest room after that and left for work early in the morning. I haven't seen him or spoken to him today. I'm just at a loss. I don't know where this obsession is coming from. I even asked him if I gained weight, if that's what's gotten him confused. He assured me I didn't. I'm thinking of contacting his parents. Or maybe a therapist or something. I honestly don't understand what's happening and I'm worried about my husband. Edit, next day. Edit, thank you for all the replies, I didn't expect all this. It's been overwhelming and I'm incredibly grateful. He's asleep next to me right now and I keep going through all the comments. My husband is one of the kindest people I've ever met, I promise you all that he's not trying to manipulate me, or would do anything to harm me. But that does make me believe something is really wrong. I'll contact my and his parents in the morning, once he's left for work. Maybe go stay with my mom for a bit, though I hate the idea of leaving him like this. I also definitely will make an appointment with my doctor for a blood test. Thank you for all the advice. Relevant comments. To a longer comment addressing the fact that this could be a delusion and delusions can become violent. OOP, oof, this reply hit me hard. I appreciate it a lot. I'm very torn. I love my husband very much and am worried about him right now, but I feel increasingly uncomfortable at home as well. Commenter, downvoted the whole phantom pregnancy thing usually only affects women. But one supposes a guy could have it too. Obviously as time goes on and you don't produce a bump or a baby he'll recognize that you're not pregnant. But this probably isn't some profound mental illness on his part. Just the fervid wish that you could both start working on becoming parents soon. Maybe talk to him about your timeline. At 32 he's probably just more in the ready-to-be-dad phase of life than you are in the ready-to-mom phase at 26. So remind him that you've still got time. OOP, downvoted, I'll try to do that. It just feels like such a weird response to wanting a child. Commenter, replying to OOP, this is not an urgent enough response to what seems like a pretty serious delusion. This behavior isn't normal or explicable in reasonable terms. OOP, fair. It is very unlike him. I might call my mom, ask her if I can stay with them for a bit. If only to get all of this sorted. I just want him to snap out of it. I miss my husband as I know him. Commenter, would he harm you if he thought you got an abortion? Because that's a possibility. He may accuse you of having an abortion if you get medical confirmation that you're not pregnant after he's decided that you are. OOP, I hadn't even thought of that, sorry. Thanks for your reply. Commenter, the first time I got pregnant my husband knew before I did. He had a feeling. Home test said negative but a blood test showed positive. OOP, oh my, that's wild. Either way I'll meet with my gyno, if only to have some conclusive proof that I'm not. Update. Things escalated yesterday. But I'm with my mom and his parents are at our place. Update 2 days later. Hi everyone, I hope it's okay I post this update. I really appreciate everyone asking if I'm safe, and I am. I wish I could give clear answers, but I can't. Things escalated when I tried to speak to him, keeping some of y'all's advice in mind. I sat him down and explained to him that I'd love to have kids with him in the future, but that I'm not pregnant right now, and that his insistence worries and scares me. I told him we could go to the doctor together if that would put his mind at ease, or I could take another test in front of him. I was just hoping to snap him out of it somehow. He got very agitated, said many hurtful things and accused me of being a liar many times. That I'm trying to keep our baby away from him, and so on. Nothing made sense and I wasn't feeling safe anymore. I knew my husband would never harm me in any way, but that wasn't my husband. Things got worse, he did hurt me but nothing permanent or even emergency care worthy. I also know that if he was in his right mind, he never would have done anything like this. I called mine and his parents and I'm now staying with my mom. He did seem to calm down a bit when his parents arrived. I haven't seen/spoken to him since then. His mother, she's an angel, is keeping me posted about everything. We all agree something is very off about him, and we don't know what it is. But he hasn't agreed to getting himself checked out in any way. I don't know how they'll go about it, but they say, and I painfully have to agree that it's best to keep my distance for a bit, as most of it is aimed at me. I'm safe, so is he. I miss him so much and just want an answer as to why he's being like this. I keep trying to figure out if there were signs before, or what I did wrong. Thank you all for the replies, they were a great help. It's so kind you cared to ask if I'm safe. Relevant comment. Commenter, let's pray it's not drugs, since he refuses to get checked out, uneasy face. I'm so sorry OP, I hope everything gets better soon. I don't know if going back to him is a good idea though, he physically hurt you. OP, I do think that whatever is causing this, is the reason he hurt. We've been together for some years now and he's never even raised his voice at me up until this. OOP responds to many commenters and thanks them. Thanks. I've been reading all the comments, you guys are all so kind to me. But I'm scared shitless about what it could be, reading everyone's experience. Mini update. He has apparently agreed to get himself checked out, but I haven't heard anything else. Update. He's in the hospital. Many people were right about it being a medical issue. I'll get more into it at some point, maybe, but first need to see what's going to happen with him. I've seen him a couple of times. Sometimes he's his normal self, sometimes he can't stand the sight of me. We're managing somehow. Update. I don't know if anyone will see this here, but you've all been so kind to keep asking whether or not we're okay. I hope I'll reach you like this. I'm going to keep this short. My husband has a brain tumor. A lot of people commented this, and I feel an immense amount of guilt that I hadn't considered it till then. All the headaches and other symptoms in hindsight we had previously dismissed because of his stressful work situation and so on. I'm beating myself up that I hadn't seen it before. A wonderful team of neuro, surgeons, oncologists and other physicians is figuring out the best approach here, if there is one. We'll hear more in the next days. I've spent more time with my husband. Some moments he's his amazing self, others he's filled with anger. It's difficult, but we're managing. I wouldn't have been able to without the support of our friends and family. I love my husband. This situation is terrifying. In moments of clarity he's trying to make me laugh, so I don't worry. That's who he is. Thank you everyone for pushing me to get him checked out. Relevant comments. OOP clarifies. I'm home now, but my husband's in the hospital. Commenter, in his moments of clarity does he recognize how he's been acting? Or is there always some level of reality distortion? OOP, he seems mostly very confused, if that makes any sense. He has apologized, but his mind is just not working with him right now. Commenter, OP, this is not the first time I've seen a thread on Reddit where a brain tumor caused significant behavior changes. I hope the surgeons are able to remove it and your husband's previous personality comes back. Have the doctors given you any info on what to expect after the tumor has been removed? OOP, right now it's the question if it can be removed. There's a lot we don't know right now. The doctors/nurses have been incredibly kind though. New updates, side posts 3 weeks later. I'm irrationally angry at my husband for having a brain tumor. I can't say these feelings out loud, not to the people around me, so I hope it's okay I do it here. But I'm furious with my husband for getting sick. I know he's not to blame, I know he's suffering. Yet I'm still furious with him. I can't explain it. He's the love of my life. How dare he get sick? How dare he change anything about the wonderful life we have planned? How dare he leave me so much sooner than when we're old and senile? 2 months ago our life was perfect. How could everything get so horrible so fast? I love him so much it hurts. And because of that I'm so angry with him right now. I feel like a horrible person. Update. It's 2 a.m. here, so I apologize if this is not coherent. I'm going to step away from all social media and I wanted to leave you with a brutally honest update. It's silly, but y'all's support has meant a lot to me. Don't get me wrong, I have wonderful family and friends. But in a way I have to comfort them too, and I can't deal with it right now. My husband is dying. In the 5 weeks since his diagnosis, he's gotten worse quickly. Today the decision has been made not to continue treatment or even properly start it. He's not strong enough. He has a month, maybe. If we're lucky. I'm furious at the world right now. And I'm furious at him. Which makes me an enormous bitch, 'cause what kind of person is angry at their husband for being ill? I love him so much, and I hate him for it. I'm sorry this isn't a better update. Wish you all the best. Relevant comments. Top commenter, fucking hell I'm so sorry. I remember hoping it was schizophrenia and not a tumor. I'm still kinda hoping this is someone's creative writing venture, but I'm still fucking devastated for you. I know tears from a stranger on the internet aren't really a comfort, but they're still falling for you. I lost my little sister a few years ago. I love her so much, she was my world. I was like a half-parent to her. I was planning my life on having her live with me. And after the very quick progression of an unknown illness she was gone. I still can only imagine what you're going through. I'm so sorry. I hope you're already linked with palliative care, there's some amazing people. Take it literally 1 second at a time. Then 1 minute. Then an hour. Then a day. I was taking it an hour at a time for months after she died, and I still sometimes go day by day. If you can get grief counseling, go ASAP. I did phone sessions, can give you more info if you are in Australia. I mainly used my sessions to just talk about my sister. To tell stories and remember her. To have someone new know her. Sending you love and light. This comment means a lot to me. Thank you. I'm sorry for what you've been through. Our medical team has been incredible, even dealing with my emotions with a lot of patience. I just wish this wasn't the path we had to take. Commenter, grief has different stages. Denial, anger, bargaining, depression and acceptance. You are in the anger stage. Totally justified after the things you went through before diagnosis. You are angry because you are being robbed of the future together with your husband. Also you know it's a hard road ahead that you didn't think would happen until you were both old and gray. I don't have advice for you and I am so sorry you are going through this. Your feelings are normal and valid if that helps a tiny bit. Maybe speaking to a professional may help you also. Like, share and subscribe my channel for daily stories.
He thought time had buried the past, but the truth I buried roared back and destroyed everything. He raped me 10 years ago and I ruined his love engagement. Was it revenge or justice? Growing up, I F27 had a childhood friend, Angie F27, who was as close as a real sister. We spent entire weekends at each other's place, celebrated family events etc. from 6 years old till 18 years old. Elle even lived at her place in 2nd grade while my parents went to a nasty divorce. I learned to speak some Russian as she is Russian and she learned to speak some Spanish. Needless to say, her older brother and little sister were like a family to me. During our teenage years she had her 2 male best friends, one whom she started dating and another one, Nico, now 29, who was Russian as well, whom I started dating at 17. Growing up I had issues with a heart condition. I won't bore you with the details, but I had to take a lot of meds, but got healthier starting from 16. One didn't have to take them daily but only when my heart rate became irregular. But then immediately, as it would become extremely painful, my heart would cramp, I would start to hyperventilate. All my friends knew this, Nico included, and that I would black out if my meds got taken with alcohol. I didn't smoke much or drink much growing up as a result, since I was worried about my health and only did drink at home or in a safe setting. Legal drinking age is 16 here and I only drank wine or beer if at all. I had my first time with Nico at 17 and when my parents stayed at a retreat 2 weeks later, he come over to have a date night. I did drink 1 glass of wine, but starting having health issues later resulting in me taking my meds and being unconscious. I was a bit sore the next morning but didn't think much about it. 2 weeks later I'm informing Nico that I'm late on my period and he starts to panic, confessing he had sex with me while I was unconscious. We had it before so he didn't think much about it. Apparently he didn't have a condom but since I was on the pill he figured it was alright and he also didn't come in me but in a tissue. I felt violated and disgusted by myself. I didn't know how to describe this and only told Angie about it. I was an utter mess for a few years, and wasn't able to have sex again until 2 years later. I didn't remember any of it, but was too ashamed to go to my mom or anybody else. I didn't think of it as rape back then, I was too young to really understand what and how I was violated and Angie told me it's alright I should break up if I feel bad about it, but we were in a relationship and did have sex before. I broke up with him the following day, and apparently he cried about his broken heart to her. As Nico and Angie were close and hanging out together a lot, they started dating a few months afterwards and I had to see him every time when visiting her. I told her I'm not able to see him, but she didn't understand where I'm coming from. The contact stopped and we haven't texted or seen each other in years. I still followed her and her family and saw that her brother is expecting his first child. As I was extremely close with her family, I just commented on the Insta post expressing my gratitude when he reached out to me. I missed his wedding but he wanted to ask if I would be interested in joining the baby shower as it's been years and we've been extremely close before. He told me I was like a third little sister. I just asked if Nico will be attending as well, as Angie and him have been dating for 9 years now, and he said yes. I didn't elaborate much but just expressed that I'll send a small present if he can give me his current address but won't be attending. He kept on pestering me what exactly happened all those years ago and why I'm not in their lives anymore. Angie told her family I'm not able to see her with an ex of mine, but her brother thought there's more behind it. This is when I think I could be the asshole. I told him the truth about what happened back then. And while I didn't know it at 17, I know now that this was rape and I named it as such. I didn't receive any message back from him but a few days later Angie reached out to me furious. Nico had planned to propose during the baby shower, but Angie's brother is against it now, having learnt why I stopped the contact. She loves Nico and will stay with him, but by doing so her brother said she is no longer a part of his life, as he doesn't want his little baby girl in the same family as a rapist. Since then I've been getting messages from old high school acquaintances, telling me I should have ignored it, and not told anybody. Since I didn't speak up back then I lost the right to do so now, and am a horrible person for ruining somebody's life over some stuff he did 10 years ago when he himself was a child as well. Relevant comments. OP responds to multiple comments about how things are wrong, and she could speak up. OE. I understand now how wrong it has all been and that it's rape. But we grew up in a small town with approximate 5K people, and I honestly don't know which way it would have gone if I would have spoken up. He was 19 back then, 2 years older, and everybody is in everybody's business. It would have made sound back then like it does now. They all still live there and it has made its rounds. That's why so many of our old classmates are reaching out. Most of who still live there have left me furious messages. They have known Nico for all their life, and are standing by him. I moved out when I was 20, my mom shortly after, and didn't stay in touch, which most. It still breaks my heart to get such a furious response from people who are my whole childhood. And thank you for all your best wishes, I genuinely appreciate it. OP did not ruin Nico's life. He did this himself. OE. I understand that what happened is on him. The backlash I am getting is because he apparently is not that person anymore and something he did as a teenager, according to Angie, should not ruin his life and is in no way related to the daughter her brother will have. I don't know if he will ever act out or do something, but it doesn't invalidate what happened to me, so thank you for confirming this. I just can't stop to feel bad about this having so much consequences. While I do not want to see Nico or Angie, I have made my peace with what happened to me back then. Commenter. But why are they attacking you and not the brother? You are not the one objecting to the marriage. Just feels like misogyny and victim blaming tbh. OP, I guess because he is family and I'm the outsider who ruined their family. I have been getting so many messages from people who didn't even have my number back then. I'm blocking the best I can, It's just hard to not let these comments get to your heart. Commenter into, they got together so soon after the two of you broke up. I can't help but wonder if your friend was convincing you to break up with Nico because she was hoping to get with him all along. OP. I honestly don't believe it. They've known each other for years and she broke up with her boyfriend 2 weeks before I broke up with Nico. It was a 5K town, even adding the people our age from near villages. Our school had 500 people attending, hence the options are very limiting. OP on getting therapy in order to heal from her past trauma. OP. I was in therapy for 2 years and found peace with what happened to me. I am lucky as I have no memory of it, but that didn't make it easier. It took me 2 years to be able to have any form of sexual contact again, but I am okay now. It's a part of me, but it's a part one can live with. Honestly, thank you for your kind words, Whiteheart. OP on her health issues at the time when the incident happened. Oh, it's not drunk blacked out. My medicine back then was supposed to lower my heart rate extremely, as I would have a racing heartbeat and my body would start to shut down, hyperventilating, my heart not being able to follow such strong use, and basically tripping over the high heart rate. My heart would start skipping beats, then not being able to follow my thin blood which flows faster than regular one, and the skipping would be the painful one as it would start to crampen up. I'm sorry I'm not able to explain it better. English is not my primary language and I lack the medical vocabulary to fully describe it. The pill slowed my heartbeat and general body functions, thus making me extremely tired. I'd mix with alcohol, it would basically act like a super strong sleeping pill. My body could be thrown off a cliff and I wouldn't wake up. I did give consent for the first time we had sex, but that was our first and only time. I don't know if we would have had sex back then if I would have been conscious, as I didn't like it, being my first time and all, and wasn't that eager knowing repeating it. I don't think calling it rape is wrong, but what I had issues was if I should have approached this subject more sensible. In that way I can understand that I ruined their engagement plans for next week, or his surprise of one. Update. First of all, I am immensely thankful for all the people who took the time to not only read through my story, but also comment. I read every single comment and tried to respond to as many as possible. It gave me a little bit of hope of compassion for victims of rape, and also the courage to not cave to the backlash I received. Mental update. Reading all the messages defending my choices on speaking up made me realize how insecure I was on what I am allowed to do, and how much I was trying to make it right to other people besides myself. This especially included Nico and Angie. All of you are right. If Nico had changed, he would have apologized, reached out, or tried to make amends in some way, either when word got to him from his brother-in-law or at some earlier point in his life. My former best friend Angie should have been able to feel some sort of compassion if she had any respect for me as a human being or the time we spend together. Her reactions showed that I shouldn't hesitate on my actions. I went to therapy from 21 onwards and thought I moved on from the rape as best as I could, but I realized how ashamed I still am almost 10 years later about an incident that wasn't my fault at all. I was ashamed to speak up back then and afraid that people around me would look differently at me. And somehow I still felt bad about speaking up today, so I trying to own what happened to me now and not apologize for other people's behaviors, especially as they don't even show me respect. What happened since then? I archived every nasty message I got on WhatsApp so I wouldn't have to read them, but would have the proof if needed at a later point. Angie's mom called me the following day of the incident crying. I shouldn't have answered the phone, but during the 10 years of friendship I saw her as an aunt, almost a second mom. She always joked that while her children would run around the house doing whatever, I would always take the time to drink a tea and talk with her, showing her more love and time than her actual children. While she said she's sorry for what has been, and for what I went through as a child, she couldn't believe that I would ruin Angie's happiness over something like that. With Angie's brother refusing to have Nico as part of the family and Angie standing by Nico's side, it's divided their family, and she is heartbroken. She has grown to love Nico like family as well, and has known him for nothing more than a considerate young man who she knows will make her daughter happy. It wasn't nasty names or angry talk, just a heartbroken mother who faked to acknowledge my pain and saw the fault in me. Angie's mom tried to get me to apologize or to take it back, but I refused as I don't see the fault in me. With everything that has happened, I believe that Nico hasn't changed and is just hiding it better somehow. He can see how people are standing by him and supporting his behavior so he won't have to change. And that is something I didn't want to indulge. Angie's mom not even one used the word rape, And I tried to correct her every time she talked about it, trying to name it for her to understand better, but she would just start sobbing more and it didn't make sense for us to continue to talk. Angie's mom used to be in contact with mine for some time, and she reached out to her after our talk. I was afraid that my mom would find out, since she's from a more conservative background. We had a long talk and I didn't get to see her physically yet, but she apologized for not being there for me or not making me feel like I can talk to her. I tried to calm her as best as I could, but when she asked me if my current partner knows I was used like that, I got angry. She was scared my partner would leave me if he found out, implying it was something that made me less precious or appealing. When she asked me to keep it a secret from our family abroad and in our country, I hung up. She was acting exactly the way I was afraid she would, as if it's something shameful. It was especially hard as I am trying my best to move away from the feeling of shame. She has since apologized, but it's clear that her view of me has changed. I don't yet know how to deal with it, but that's something to worry about in the next few weeks. As some of you suggested, I wrote Angie's brother, Sven, again and apologize for the mess, but I'm glad that it is out in the open and how proud I am that he's defending his family. I asked if his old email is still working as I would just send a gift card. He didn't respond, but I got a message from his wife 2 days ago. She thanked me for speaking up and informing them about Nico. There were apparently had a few moments that made her uncomfortable, some jokes Nico made, and in retrospective she can see why. Sven apparently informed her the moment he got my initial text, and both of them have since seen Angie but not Nico. She refuses to be in the same room or house as him, and same goes to their unborn daughter. Sven and Angie's mom has been at their place multiple times to beg to forgive Nico, and Sven caved a little. Angie and Nico will get married. Sven will attend but his wife will not. He is allowed in the family but not in contact with either Sven's wife or daughter. Those restrictions are not for Angie. Sven was suffering trying to ease his mother's worries, and is not able to take a stand and cut them out completely. This is a compromise they made without his wife's approval, and she told me she's trying her best to cut them out of their life indefinitely. She wanted to move back, closer to her family as well, and thinks this is a perfect opportunity, but isn't sure if she can follow through. His wife told me she's terribly sorry for all the issues that came my way, and it has been a lot trying to handle the situation on their side. Sven knows it's not my fault, but he doesn't want contact. It's hard for him to talk or see my name because even though he knows I'm not the guilty party, in some way I was the bearer or bad news and he sees me as the start of all this drama. She told me a few times that neither believe I'm the bad guy, they just are tired with everything and it's just been extremely hard on them. That's all that has happened so far. I am frustrated about how everything came to be. It feels like Nico will just continue with his life without having to be remorseful. I didn't want him to suffer, but I think some part of me wanted to at least receive some kind of apology for all the suffering I went through afterwards. I'm having to deal with my mother and her changed shameful view on me, and even though I'm happy it's all out, it's extremely hard to stand by my choices. My partner and my best friends both have been my shoulder to cry on during this ordeal. Especially my best friend was enraged for me, and I am extremely grateful to have both by my side. Right now I'm just emotionally drained, but I'm sure it will be better once a few weeks passes. Comments. Commenter 1. You spoke up and did the right thing. If others can't handle the truth, that's their problem. Keep focusing on your healing and support. Commenter 2. Unfortunately, it's a tale old as time. The woman is blamed and the rapist gets off without a blemish. Only by speaking the truth over and over will the situation improve, and when the boomers die off. Commenter 3. 100% the right thing. What you did may keep Nico from attacking someone else, or may encourage one of his other victims to step up. You never know how much people like you help everyone else, when you stand up and speak out and are not ashamed of what was not your fault, but will point the finger at the one to shame. You're making the world a better place. I'm sorry for the family Nico misled and the wife who was foolish enough to stay with him, but it's no longer your business. You did the right thing and it's going to help others. If no one else says it to you, thank you for doing all this. You are amazing.